Right, let's start today's session. This is the first demo session of ASP.NET Core. Okay, so today I'm going to discuss complete introduction to ASP.NET Core. So what is ASP.NET Core? And in this, what frameworks I'm going to cover in detail, I'll discuss. Okay, so ASP.NET Core. In this ASP.NET Core, I'm going to cover total 3 frameworks. One is ASP.NET Core MVC, and next one is ASP.NET Core Entity Framework and ASP.NET Core Web API. Okay, these 3 frameworks I'm going to cover. So ASP.NET Core version only completely. So first, let me give some brief idea about MVC, Entity Framework, and Web API. Then later we'll start with the ASP.NET Core introduction and what kind of technical words we are going to use in ASP.NET Core. Will give complete discussion, complete information. So especially, and one more important thing, to continue this ASP.NET Core lectures, I strongly recommend to have knowledge of C#.NET and as well as SQL Server, especially Microsoft SQL Server. Okay, so who do not have the knowledge of C#.NET and SQL Server, Microsoft SQL Server database knowledge, and you better to drop this session. That means you can't continue with these sessions. I strongly recommend who completes C#.NET and their SQL Server, at least SQL Server basics. So I recommend to continue this session. Otherwise, you can't understand the things. But here, most of them are my students who completed their C#.NET and SQL Server as well. And I'm saying that new students who are joining, especially for ASP.NET Core, you must have the prior knowledge of C#.NET. Otherwise, so you can't able to understand that. The prerequisite subjects for ASP.NET Core is C#.NET as well as MS SQL, Microsoft SQL Server, and then basics of UI technologies like HTML, CSS, JavaScript. But that UI technologies, you need not to worry, because after completion of ASP.NET Core demo sessions, I'm going to cover 1 week sessions of UI basics like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, jQuery, Bootstrap, how to handle it. Okay, so that we will discuss in detail. So here I'm going to cover that also, UI basics. That means HTML plus CSS plus JavaScript plus jQuery, then Bootstrap. These also I'm going to cover. Minimum 1 week sessions I'll cover in this sessions once I complete ASP.NET Core demo. Okay, yeah, we can C#.NET and SQL Server knowledge if you have, then you can continue, not a problem at all. Okay, so UI basics, everything we will teach in the ASP.NET development only. So totally, I'm going to cover in ASP.NET Core MVC framework, entity framework, web API, UI basics, and HTML, CSS, JavaScript, jQuery, Bootstrap, all these things. Okay, so as you know that in every web development process, okay, in current scenarios, so everybody is going to develop web application in MVC architecture, right? So MVC architecture is important in every web development. This is modern architecture design pattern. MVC is nothing but. Okay. So MVC stands for Model View Controller. In MVC, M stands for model. Okay. So V stands for view and C stands for controller. Control. These 3 layers are there. Actually, main purpose of MVC is what actually separation of concern. So all 3 layers are separated. So model, view, and controller. So here model represent actually data access layer, and view is represent nothing but presentation layer. Controller nothing but business access layer. That means logic we are going to write. Okay, controller it is. model view controller. Okay. Now coming to the point, model represent data access layer means complete database coding we are going to write in model. For this purpose, I'm going to cover SQL Server. Already we covered all my students SQL Server. So at least basics are required SQL Server. This is the subject which I'm going to deal with model. And presentation layer means then these subjects under comes into presentation layer generally for UI designing, user interface. View means presentation layer. The moment when we run the ASP.NET web application, so first time what we are going to see on the screen, that is called presentation layer. That means UI, user interface. So normally HTML through we can prepare pages, and CSS through we can give some styling to the pages. JavaScript through we can add some functionality like validations mostly. So HTML, CSS, JavaScript are basic UI technologies, which is commonly used UI technologies for every web development process. And jQuery is an extension of JavaScript, and Bootstrap is the combination of CSS and JavaScript libraries. So Bootstrap is very useful UI technology for especially bringing more look and feel for your web applications. So this all under comes into the view. Controller means completely business access layer. That means action methods or logic we have to write. You know that very well in entire the .NET complete logic we are going to write using what language? C#.NET. So whatever we learn from C#.NET, all the topics that are all we are going to include in ASP.NET Core Web Development also. So main logic is implement using C#.NET only. So ASP.NET Core is a framework actually. In this, we are using the design pattern MVC, an entity framework, another framework, web API like this. So all together, we are going to bring one website and one web applications. So in real-time web application, these things compulsory required in ASP.NET web application development. So this is MVC model. I will also discuss in detailed MVC architecture. Okay. Now, what is entity framework? This is another subject which I'm going to cover in the part of ASP.NET Core. So entity framework is also called as EF. We can say short form entity framework. So it is open source object relational mapper. Okay, entity framework is a open source. Entity framework is a open source object relational mapper that we can call it as ORM. So entity framework is an object relational mapper tool. Okay. So this tool through we can develop object database related code. So it is for completely ASP.NET Core developers or .NET developers. Entity framework is an open source object relational mapper. Okay. For .NET developers, especially web developers. It is mandatory. And this entity framework allowing to work with the database using .NET objects. What exactly entity framework means? Entity framework is allowing to work with the .NET objects, means normally C#.NET objects. Okay. So entity framework is allowing to work with the .NET objects. Okay. Which is related to database. Yes. So complete related to database objects, we are going to prepare using .NET only. This will allow by entity framework only. And especially this entity framework will do what? Simplifying the data access and reducing the need for writing SQL Server. Okay, entity framework is going to simplifying data access, simplifying the data access and reducing the need for writing raw SQL statements. Yes, for writing raw SQL statements like this. Raw SQL statements means no need to write completely SQL statements, right? So that means what? We need not to write how we have seen in the previous lecture of SQL Server. No need to write all the statements manually, like select a query, up, update query, delete query, like this. We need not to do that. So you can also use ADO.NET also. Yes, language integrated query also. There are different tools, but this is the flexibility compared to them. Okay. So entity framework, we will offer C#.NET objects. Normally, if you want to create any table, how to write the query, create table name, something like ID, integer name, varchar, something like that. No, we don't write that. Normally, we can come up with C#.NET classes and with the properties and data fields. Automatically, when we do make migrations, entity framework object relational mapper will will make impact on your database, which database currently you're using. For suppose SQL Server, on that it will create a tables, and each and every C#.NET class field is considered as a normally table columns only. So entity framework is going to simplify the data access and reducing the need of writing raw SQL statements. That is the main purpose of entity framework. Actually, this is our part of uh, language integrated query is different. Okay, that is different, and this is different. We will also include that. Okay, so link to SQL, there are different accesses will be there. So to communicate with the database. So entity framework is one of the main MVC ORM tool. That's what we are including entity framework here. So without raw SQL statements, we can uh, use this entity framework. So link support also there, language integrated support. It allows to developers to use language integrated query to query and manipulate data using C# code. So C# coding through, we can link to SQL. That concept is there. That in that concept, see, entity framework, there are so many concepts are there. In the part of entity framework, we are going to introduce LINQ, language integrated query, and code first approach, database first approach. Okay, there are so many things are cross platform support. So there are different things are there here. So that will be discussed in later sessions, but just I'm giving overview what subject I'm going to cover in ASP.NET Core. So MVC entity framework, now web API. So web API concept is very important. Normally in every web application, developers compulsory need to have into their subject learning process, web API is also required. Okay, APIs. So what exactly web API will do? So as I said that in my previous demo lectures also. So web API is one of the important framework or subject you must and should learn in .NET especially. So if you learn ASP.NET Core for web application development, but after that, if you don't learn a web API, or if you are not able to manage web API, somehow it is completely drawback. So web API built using ASP.NET Core, it is a framework for developing HTTP enabled services like APIs. APIs means what? Application Programming Interface, right? Everybody know that API stands for Application Programming Interface. Yes. Application Programming Interface. So what is API exactly means? API is a software tool. API is a software tool which enable the application, which enables the communication, between two or more applications. So imagine that after developing of ASP.NET Core web application, so if your application is not in a position to communicate with other application, that's not proper way, because normally in our daily life, we are going to use so many applications, right? Like Flipkart, Amazon, Swiggy, Zomato, and all. So we are doing some transactions using that applications. That application can send generally request to the uh, target application. Suppose you're uh, buying a product on Flipkart website. So after selecting the product and specifications, for making the payment for that product, you have to communicate with your banking application, right? So that means your application, Flipkart app, should be able to communicate with concerned customer banking application. Then that application should take the request from the flipkart.com website, and that banking server can process the request. And after that, banking server should give response to the application back. So here two applications are communicating with each other by exchanging the data or making the transaction successful. So in that context, API tool is required. API is a software tool which enables the communication between two or more applications. So API is act as a mediatory between two or more application. Okay, so that means it's nothing but web services, right? So web services extension is web API. So we are using powerful architectures like RESTful architectures, representational state transfer architectures in web API. So REST is a one more design pattern or architecture which we are going to use in our web APIs. So application programming interface. So API is having set of rules and specifications that allows different software application to communicate and interact with each other. Okay, it's having set of rules and regulations. So API is also required. So microservices difference between that is that's what protocols. SOAP services, REST services. REST is advanced actually. Yeah. So there are a lot of differences are there. So I'm not going to in great detail. Okay, Mr. Try to be patient so that we'll cover everything here. Okay, I can't go with in deep right now in the demo session only, right? So I hope you understand that. So just to get the things basic information right now. Later, whenever we start the web API subject, there I can go with in detailed so that you can ask at any time in that time any questions so that it will be useful things so that even if I answer it, so many people can understand it. But if I can answer right now at this moment, maybe other people may not understand who don't have prior knowledge of things. I hope you understand that. It doesn't make sense that I'm not giving the answer. Okay. So try to understand. Just I'm trying to discuss what is what now. Later, once we enter into the coding part, so each and everything differences between SOAP protocol, REST protocol, and there are some architectural patterns are there. I can't include architectural or life cycles now only from the beginning. Okay, before that we have to discuss a lot more. So without having basic prior knowledge, you can't go in detail at this moment. So API is a set of rules and regulations. API is a set of rules and regulations. Yes, API is a set of rules and regulations that follows or that allows different different software different software applications to communicate and interact with each other to communicate and interact with each other. Okay. Yes. So API is containing set of rules and regulations or specifications that allows different software application to communicate and interact with each other. Okay. So web API is nothing but generally in .NET we use web API. For example, Java programmers usually REST API or RESTful services, and Python or Django people they use REST API only. Okay, so no MVC file. It's completely new version. We are right now working with ASP.NET Core 8, completely 8 standard through. I'm going to explain. Okay, so ASP.NET Core 8 right now we are using. So even I covered complete C#.NET Core 8 C#.NET Core 12 version, ASP.NET Core 8 only I'm going to cover. So that's what completely new features we have included, not 5. And by web API means actually the APIs is going to be communicate over the internet, right? So that's nothing but web API. Or else you can call it as this is REST API, or we can say web services. Web services is an old terminology. Web services and extension is nothing but web API. Web API is nothing but it's almost like web service only, but we are using more communication channels here. So the services which will provide for web applications over the internet or over the web is called web API. This is also one of the subject which I'm going to deal. So API is for communicating with the different applications. Entity framework, tables or queries directly generating by ORM tool without writing raw SQL statements. And completely ASP.NET Core web development, I'm going to implement with MVC architecture, model view controller. For that, managing the model purpose SQL Server knowledge is required. Managing the view purpose, presentation layer purpose, UI basics are mandatory. And writing the logic or business access layer purpose controller means action methods purpose C#.NET is required. Already you know that C#.NET and SQL Server. And UI basics also we will be covered in our sessions right now. After completion of at least 4 or 5 demo lectures of ASP.NET Core, immediately we'll start first 1 week. We will focus on UI basics only. Once you are ready with UI basics like HTML pages, design and all, bootstrap links and bootstrap jQuery libraries, how to add to our web applications of ASP.NET, then onwards we'll start with MVC architecture and all. So this is main core introduction, what subjects I'm going to cover. Now coming to this ASP.NET. See sir, ASP.NET is the product of Microsoft Corporation. Okay, so first of all, what is ASP.NET? Let's start with ASP.NET. Our main thing is ASP.NET Core. Core is Core is nothing but it is nothing but platform independent style or cross platform. That is only core. Okay, even if you follow my demo lectures in .NET especially, I discuss core and framework, what is the difference. Before ASP.NET Core, there was a ASP.NET only, which is completely platform dependent style, which run on Windows. So later Microsoft released .NET Core along with ASP.NET Core, which makes platform independent style, which run on Windows, Linux, Mac OS, and other tools. So let's give the brief introduction of ASP.NET. First of all, ASP stands for Active Server Page. ASP stands for Active Server Page. Okay. So ASP.NET is a web technology or server-side technology, also we can call it as. ASP.NET is a server-side technology, better we can call it as server-side. Yes, server-side technology. Server-side technology. Why? Because ASP.NET through we can develop web applications. Every web application is depend on client-server architecture, right? So client-server architecture is important architecture for every web developer. So client means from where you are going to send request. For example, browser like Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge, these are the browser tools. From there, we are going to send request to the server. So ASP.NET is a server-side technology, or some people will call it as web technology, but better to call it as server-side technology. Why? The reason is all the ASP.NET controls, like whatever we prepare the controls like text boxes, labels, buttons, checkboxes, like tools. Okay, so all the ASP.NET controls will execute at server side. Will execute at server side. That's the reason we can say ASP.NET is a server side technology. And what we can do using ASP.NET, using ASP.NET, we can develop the web applications. Yes, using ASP.NET, we can develop web applications. So web applications also called as what? Online or distributed applications. Web applications also called as online or distributed applications. Distributed applications. Yes. Web application is also called as online or distributed applications. So mobile application purpose Xamarin tool is there. We don't use ASP.NET, not required. That tool is different tool, which is provided by Microsoft. Web applications also called as online or distributed applications. And the ASP.NET is completely depend on client server architecture. ASP.NET is completely depend on client server architecture. So I have to understand the client server architecture. That's not a big deal. ASP.NET is completely depends on client server architecture. Yes, every web application development is depend on client server architecture only. Okay, and web application means what? As well, the application already many people know that application which will provide the services over the web or internet is called web application. Okay, is called web applications. In using ASP.NET framework or server-side technology, we can build a ASP web applications rapidly. Rapid means faster rate of application development is possible. Why? Because the moment when we install ASP.NET Core libraries, okay, which will come along with the uh, Visual Studio 2022 installation time only. So lot of built-in libraries, okay, rich built-in libraries are available. Using that ASP.NET Core libraries, we can build web application at faster rate. And even some extra libraries also there, which is now get packages onwards, we can explicitly install it and make our web application fully loaded with a larger scale of libraries. Okay. So in ASP.NET web application, generally, so in web application development, every programmer should understand the following technical terms. Some very basic terms, what is web page? Okay, what is web page and what is website, and then what is web browser. These are commonly used uh, technical terms we in our daily basis, like web browser means what, web server means what, right? So without these technical terms, so we can't imagine ASP.NET Core web applications, because every day we are going to deal with these terms only: web page, website, web browser, web server. So define the web page. What is web page? So very simple. Web page is nothing but information towards the end user or client. Information towards the end user is called web page. For example, uh, you are the student. Okay, so you are the customer to the DurgaSoft, right? So if you want to learn any course from DurgaSoft Institute, online or offline, so usually as a student you can do with going to the durgasoft.com website, right? Durgasoft.com. This is the durgasoft.com website, and officially, so you can able to find out this course details, like who is faculty, what is the courses are offering, like that you can able to maintain like this. Okay, so these are the details, but this is what information towards end user. Who are the end users for DurgaSoft? Especially students. So as a student, if you go through DurgaSoft website, you are getting some information regarding this course details and right. This is a web page content. So web page is nothing but information towards the end user or client is called web page. But web page can be categorized into two parts. One is static web page and then dynamic web page. So that static web page means what? Okay, so static web page means non-interaction pages are called static pages. Non-interaction pages are called static pages. But suppose I'm a first time user or student to the DurgaSoft website. I want to know about DurgaSoft so that I can see simply, I can go through about us. Click on the about us link so that I can get the information related to DurgaSoft Institute. I can read it so I can understand this info about this. So I'm not doing anything in this page like about us. I'm just doing what actually just simply uh, reading the about DurgaSoft Institute, okay, and I'm getting the information about the institute, then I can left from this page, right? So this type of non-interaction pages are called static pages. So non-interaction page is nothing but static page. So about us, contact us, these pages are static pages. What about dynamic page? User interaction pages. User interaction pages are nothing but dynamic page. User interaction means what, you know? For example, after reading the information about DurgaSoft as a student, so I can go to registration, right? So if I'm looking for any course, I can click on registration page. So there they are providing like registration form, name, phone number, email ID, current status, course interested, preferred joining date, all these I have to fill up. So to fill that, I need to interact with these pages like text boxes, user interface. So after that, I can click on submit so that my details are going to the DurgaSoft database. They can approach me later by contacting. So this is interacting as a first time student. I'm going to interact with this page and form. So this type of page is called like login page, registration page. These type of interaction pages are called dynamic pages. So using ASP.NET Core with HTML, we can prepare static as well as dynamic pages both. This is about web page because in our ASP.NET web development every day, our main target is to design the page and to write the logic for the page. And either you can submit that page data to the server or else you can get the data from server. These type of transactions will be there in ASP.NET development. And website is nothing but very simple. Website is a collection of web pages, multiple pages, or we can say group of web pages. So website is nothing but it's a collection of web pages or group of web pages, we can say that. So we are going to deal with many pages. We can also uh, redirect from one page to another page. So the moment when we open any website, we have a lot of pages, right? So about us, flip, login page, change password page, and registration page. So many pages we can visit. That is website. It's a group of web pages. And most important thing is if we create web page or if we create website, but remember that these two softwares are not there for suppose you can't able to manage your web applications ultimately. So this web browser is one of the important software here. Okay. So web browser is nothing but what it is a software, sir. Web browser is a software. Web browser is a software which is used to manage different types of web pages, which is used to manage the different types of web pages. If you want to manage the different types of web pages, we can use what software? Web browser software. Web browsers, you know already what kind of browsers are there, like Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, okay, Internet Explorer, Opera, Microsoft Edge. These are the browser softwares. So without browser software, you can't able to send a request or you cannot be able to get response. Okay, browser will play the important role for every running of web application in ASP.NET. And most importantly, web server. As I said that ASP.NET completely depend on client server architecture, right? So server also important. Web server is also, it is a software. Web server is also a software which is used to manage the different types of websites. Complete websites can be managed by web server. The examples of web server is lot of servers are there like Apache Tomcat and IIS Internet Information Service, especially in .NET, ASP.NET Core development. Most of them rapidly used the IIS server only, Internet Information Services. Okay, so this is web server architecture. These technical things are required actually here. Okay, and in ASP.NET web development, we need to involve in two areas. There are in every web development process, completely two major components will be there, right? So the two components in ASP.NET development, not only ASP.NET development, I'm speaking, any web development, front-end development as well as back-end application development. For front-end application development purpose, I'm going to cover only UI, which is under comes into front-end development process. Front-end development means the moment when we open any website, okay, for the first time, the user is what is going to see on the screen. Okay, so that is called front-end development. So user interface. HTML, CSS, JavaScript, jQuery, Bootstrap with proper design. But back-end application development involved three things actually. Again, three subcomponents are there, back-end development. The programming language is required. In the back-end development, programming language. What is that programming language? Obviously, C#.NET, what we learned. And then the frameworks also required for backend application development. What frameworks we are using? MVC is not a framework actually, design pattern. So we can also MVC ASP.NET, ASP.NET framework. In ASP.NET, design pattern MVC, entity framework, web API. This is completely ASP.NET framework we are using. And third one is the database. Database. So database is what? That is MS SQL, Microsoft SQL Server. This is. So these subjects we are going to use in backend. So programming language means complete code we are going to write. So what action do you want to do in the web application development? That complete logic we are going to write in C#.NET through, right? So this code is also cannot be seen by any end user or customer while accessing website. It's behind the scenes, it works. And even frameworks also. Framework is nothing but what set of rules and specifications, what they provided in ASP.NET framework you have to follow as a developer. So we need to implement our logic with web development. So ASP.NET framework is required. And the database where we can store our customer information, our client information permanently. Again, customer client, when he wants to access his data, they can access by communicating with Microsoft SQL Server. So database information end user or customer cannot see. And even ASP.NET rules and regulations, okay, request and response lifecycle, they cannot see. And C#.NET logic, whatever we write the coding completely, that also they cannot see. So this is completely behind the scenes it works, right? Backend application. But only the end user is going to see on the screen for the first time when open their website, user interface only. That is UI technologies, CML, CSS, JavaScript, jQuery, Bootstrap, like this only. Okay, so this is about complete basic introduction in ASP.NET Core web development process. Basic introduction I covered today. So in the tomorrow session, we will go with more detailed discussion on ASP.NET Core, what is the history and what versions are there in ASP.NET Core and what is MVC architecture. Okay, so complete discussion will be there in tomorrow session, first half an hour. After that, we will go through Visual Studio 2022 through. I'm going to prepare first ASP.NET Core web applications. What are the rules and regulations? How to manage ASP.NET Core MVC application for the first time? What settings are there in Visual Studio 2022? I will show you in the demo sessions. Demos lectures will be only 4 demos are there, sir, here. So after 4 demos, we will change the link. So you can use that link continuously for regular sessions. Once demos lectures are over, 4 demo lectures, then 5th session onwards, I'm going to cover UI basics, ASP, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, jQuery, Bootstrap. 1 week sessions, I'm going to cover in UI basics. Once you got the idea about UI, then after that, we will enter into real ASP.NET Core with MVC here. Okay. So how to enroll this course? So you can contact to DurgaSoft, okay, because already they posted the message in the chat box, okay, or else if you register with the valid mail ID, so our team only will communicate with you so that they'll share the details. So please try to contact them and ask the details. Don't worry, try to attend few more demos, okay, so 3 more demos are there. So after that you can decide that. So this is just basic information. Nothing I covered, just what is what. Okay. So tomorrow we'll continue from here onwards. Don't miss, please maintain the regularity so that concepts will be clear. And one more thing, every session recorded video I'll upload to your Google Drive for lifetime access. And every day the session wise material I'll upload to your Gmail. So everyday session notes and everyday session record will be handed over to you. Okay. So this is from my side today, just basic demonstration. And tomorrow I'll continue from here onwards. Don't miss it. So if you have any question, you can feel free to ask me now. And now it's your turn. Please go ahead.
Sir, can we create microservices using ASP.NET Core, sir?
No, it's a part of any web application development. We can prepare microservices, not a problem.
Why, sir? It's emerging technology because so many of the interviewers are asking that microservices knowledge is must.
Microservices just for internal access purpose. We can write it in .NET also.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Mm. It is a just a architectural style where applications are built as collection of small or independent services. Instant services purpose, we can write microservice.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
That is a part of APIs only. It's communicating via APIs only. We can use microservices.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Sir, why we prefer entity framework, sir, over without entity?
That's what I said. No, entity framework is a proper model nowadays, because when we normally, if without entity framework, if you want, you can write SQL queries and inject in your C#.NET code. That's not good practice, because anything problem, it's SQL server, and your main logic will be suffer. So entity framework means, what is the advantage? Already you prepared the models, like based on C#.NET models after creation. The model classes can make migrate against database, or once migrated successfully, then database is readily available. So we don't have any technical issues, only connection issues you will face. But table is there or not, data fields are there or not, we need not to worry about that. Instantly migrating that.
That is, it will overcome all the manual exceptions, I think.
Yes. Manual coding, manual script, we can overcome that.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Sir, we will also cover Ajax. I think jQuery is included. Can we also get the knowledge of Ajax?
Not requirement. It's completely outdated, because so many things came, no, React and Node.js and all everything. So Ajax controls also we can use, but in the classical ASP.NET we were used Ajax many times. That is third party controls. But nowadays, more than Ajax, so many tools came.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Right. Have a nice time. See you tomorrow. You can use the same link. Feel free to join tomorrow, and few more demos. Total 4 demos are there, including this. So after that, you can decide.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.